Okay, students, I'm going to explain nodal analysis. Right now we have one circuit. I've already predetermined V1. This is all connected electrically, and V2. So we're going to solve for V1 and V2. We're going to write the equations in nodal analysis. I did the currents left to right and top to bottom, if you've noticed. The first thing we need to do with nodal analysis is define the currents. When a resistor is between V1 and V2, you must subtract V1 minus V2 and then divide by the resistor that is there. So the first thing we're going to define is I1. So I1 is V1 minus V2 over 10 ohms. I2 is defined as V1 minus V2 over 25 ohms. I3, which is here, is V1, because this is V1 node, divided by 15 ohms. I4 is V2 over 20 ohms, which is here, and I5 is V2 over 30 ohms, which is right here. So now that we've defined the currents, we're going to write our first equation for V1. So the first thing we do is leaving equals entering. So looking at just the V1 node, what is leaving? Well, I1 is leaving, I2 is leaving, I3 is leaving, and 5 milliamps is leaving. And is there anything going into that node? No. So it's going to be I1 plus I2 plus I3 plus 5 amps equals 0. You know that the current must be on the other side of the equation. So when you take it from the other side of the equation, you have to change the sign. So now we have I1 plus I2 plus I3 equals negative 5 amps. What we do now is substitute what we've defined. V1 minus V2 is 10 ohms. That's I1. So all we're basically doing is substituting I1 plus I2 plus I3 equals negative 5 amps. Once we do that, then we just separate it. Right here, this one's separated from here. V1 over 10 minus V2 over 10. It's just separated. Once we separate it, we put all the V1s together. 1 over 10 ohms plus 1 over 25 ohms plus 1 over 15 ohms. That is all the V1s. Minus V2s, which is 1 over 10 ohms plus 1 over 25 ohms, V2, equals negative 5 amps. And that's our first equation. Okay, the next equation is for V2 equation. So what is leaving V2 is I4 plus I5 is leaving V2. Take a look at that. What is entering is I1, I2, and 4 amps. It's going in that direction. We fix up our equation down here, put the currents on the left, the I's, and then the regular current on the right. So now we have negative I1 minus I2 plus I4 plus I5 equals 4 amps. We're doing the same thing we did for equation 1 and just substituting what we defined as I1 as V1 minus V2 over 10 ohms. Remember, when there's a negative sign on the outside of the parentheses, you must distribute that negative sign. So on the next step, for instance, when we pull these apart, you're going to distribute the negative here. So you're going to have a negative V1. You're going to distribute it here, so a negative times a negative is a positive. So that makes that plus V2 over 10. So all we're doing is distributing these, separating them, and then we have our final equation right here. So take your time, make sure that you have the equations that you need, and that's it. Have a nice night. Bye.